Chancellor Cantor, distinguished faculty and staff, proud family members and friends, and the Rutgers Newark Law School class of 2018, it is truly a privilege for me to join you this morning. I want to thank Dean Chen for that incredibly kind introduction and abbreviated introduction as well. And I want to thank, more importantly, Dean Chen for everything that he has done for Rutgers, for New Jersey, in his time in this position and throughout his career. Thank you, Dean Chen. Dean Chen, your extraordinary leadership will be missed, but we look forward to working with Dean Cahill and Dean Lopez in the time to come, and I hope to enjoy the same partnership with the two of you that I've enjoyed with Dean Chen. Now to the important stuff. Class of 2018, congratulations. Your day is finally here. All the hard work, all of those long nights, especially the ones you spent at McGovern's, are finally behind you, and so too are the difficult mornings afterwards, right? And maybe even this morning as I saw some of you come out of McGovern's. Before I get started, I want to admit that I was really nervous coming here this morning. I get invited as Attorney General to speak to a lot of different groups in a lot of different venues. But this is the New Jersey Performing Arts Center. This is a big deal. This is a commencement for Rutgers Law School, so admittedly I was a little bit nervous. So I did what I do on most mornings, and that is talk to my 9-year-old to calm me down. And so as I was telling her that I would be speaking in this majestic hall, on this grand stage, wearing this ridiculous robe, surrounded by professors and students with equally ridiculous robes and floppy hats, she put it all in perspective for me. She said, "You mean like at Hogwarts and Harry Potter?" And I said, "Exactly, sweetie." And then she offered me her wand, the $50 wand I bought at Universal Studios. Taught me a few spells. I said, "I'll be okay. I got it from here." In all seriousness, by the end of this ceremony, you will have the distinct honor of calling yourselves not graduates of Hogwarts, but graduates of Rutgers Newark Law School. And it should fill you with such enormous pride. This law school has produced U.S. senators. It has produced state Supreme Court justices, a former FBI director. My own office is filled with Rutgers alums who serve the public interest day in and day out, including my chief of staff and our chief diversity officer, Laura Fong. Your faculty is equally amazing. This is where Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg taught. That's before she became the notorious RBG. Let's give it up for the notorious RBG. Come on. And look at Dean Chen, a Rutgers Law alum whose entire career, as I mentioned earlier, has been dedicated to serving the public. He served as the state's public advocate under Governor Corzine. He led the way on a variety of important issues, preventing lead poisoning, expanding voting rights, and reforming eminent domain. And throughout his Rutgers Law School career, he has appeared many times in federal and state courts to protect our fundamental civil liberties and to argue matters of great constitutional importance. And even now, as he steps down to return to being a full-time law professor, he has pledged $100,000 of his own money to fund student internships in public service. But given this law school's commitment to excellence and its long tradition of service, it should come as no surprise to each of you that so many graduates gravitate to public service. And for every Rutgers alum you read about in the papers, there are 10 more doing extraordinary work out of the limelight. They're serving as public defenders and line prosecutors, They're working at legal aid organizations and immigrant defense clinics. They're fighting for social justice, for environmental justice, and for economic justice. They're doing the hard work that makes our system function. And that's something Rutgers instills in all of its graduates: a commitment to the broader community and a commitment to giving back. And I know it's something that Dean Chen and so many others on this stage have taught each of you. It is simply in the Rutgers Law DNA. Now, 19 years ago, and about 300 miles to the south of New Jersey, I was sitting in a ceremony a lot like this one, surrounded by family and friends, and I remember listening to the commencement speaker, but honestly, I don't remember a thing he said. And until last night when I looked it up, I don't even remember who it was. But ironically, it was also an Attorney General, and it was the Attorney General of Virginia at that time, Mark Earley. I just hope that you indulge me and that you remember this Attorney General and find my remarks a little bit more memorable than I found his. But there are certainly certain feelings and certain things that I remember from that law school graduation ceremony. I remember feeling excitement, as you do, about graduation. I remember feeling that anxiety about the upcoming bar exam and anticipation of the legal career ahead of me. I also remember the pride that my parents felt. They had driven down from New Jersey to see their only child graduate from law school. It was a pride that was only exceeded one other time in my life, and that was the day I told him I was going to marry a doctor. But my parents' pride during that graduation ceremony was understandable. They had come to this country a few years before I was born. They brought little with them, except their hope for a better life and a firm belief that this country could offer it. You see, they took a leap of faith across oceans and continents, and in so many ways that faith was rewarded. They built a family, and they found a community. They raised a son and guided him through college and law school. They got to experience their own version of that American dream. And as they sat there at their son's law school graduation, they could take pride in knowing that they had instilled in him certain values, values that also brought a measure of success to them in their own lives. They could take pride in knowing that they taught their son to work hard, to study hard, to always treat people with kindness and decency, and to always be grateful for the opportunities that this country had afforded them and to other immigrant families. And they could take pride in knowing that they had taught their son to give back and to serve others. And as I stand here on this stage looking out on this audience, I am certain that there are so many parents, so many family members, and so many close friends who feel that same pride today. There are people in this room today who have made sacrifices, large and small, so that today's graduates could achieve the successes that we are celebrating here today. And I hope that every one of you that's receiving a degree this morning will take a moment to thank all those who paved the way for you to take this journey, who came along with you on this journey, who urged you on when things got tough, and who are cheering for you today, and who will be cheering for you in the time to come, especially if you marry a doctor. Let's thank them. My parents also taught me something else important. As immigrants, they taught me that it was possible to love and to serve your country without compromising your identity or your beliefs. They taught me that you could love where you came from and love where you're going, and that the two were not incompatible. And they taught me that it was possible to achieve success in America looking the way I do and believing the way I do. But that doesn't mean that it's always been easy. Along the way, I learned how hard we have to work for it. And I learned that we all must remain ever vigilant if we want to keep that promise of the American dream alive for all Americans. I saw that firsthand on 9/11 and in the months afterwards. I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time, and I remember watching our country come together as I've never seen it in any other moment in my lifetime. We were both united in grief and in anger. There was a surge of patriotism, a patriotism that I felt, that my family felt deeply as our neighbors. But there was also a darker side. 6 days after 9/11, President Bush visited a mosque and spoke about the need to respect Islam. But not everyone was so understanding. As I walked around Washington at the time, I noticed more and more people staring at me. I could hear people utter under their breath as I boarded a bus or entered a subway. I was heckled as I walked to work. And more than once, I was told to go back home, and they didn't mean to New Jersey. And it didn't matter that I wasn't Muslim, that I was sick, and that doesn't matter at all. They saw my beard and my turban, and they linked me to tragedy. And in those moments, I saw reflections of other dark chapters in our nation's history. I saw how easily fear could overtake our sense of decency, and I began to understand how a country as great as ours could allow discrimination to fester and to grow. So even as I felt a deep love for this country, the only country that I've ever called home, I also felt a deep desire to help make this country the best version of itself. And I knew for me that there was no better way for me to give back, for me to serve, or for me to stand up for others than to become a part of law enforcement. I thought it was especially important for me, someone like me, to stand up in court and to say to judges, to juries, and to the public, "Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Gurbir Grewal, and I represent the United States in this matter." And I wanted to promote understanding through that service, to show everyone that I and others like me were also part and parcel of the fabric of this country, and that I was doing my part to keep all of us safe. So that's exactly what I did. I was sworn in twice as an assistant U.S. attorney, first in Brooklyn, then right here in Newark, New Jersey. I was later appointed as the Bergen County prosecutor, and then And then 4 months ago, I had the honor and privilege of being sworn in as New Jersey's 61st Attorney General. And at each step along the way, I have tried my best to ensure that the government, or at least whatever part of the government I'm able to influence, advance the cause of justice. I have tried my best to ensure that the state treats all people fairly, respectfully, and responsibly. As a federal prosecutor, I never measured my success by the number of convictions I obtained or by the length of the sentences I was able to obtain. I judged myself by whether justice was done in each and every case. And sometimes that meant taking a case to trial, and other times that meant dismissing a case or not charging a case altogether because the evidence simply wasn't there. And as a county prosecutor, I measured success not by how many low-level drug offenders or users that I was able to lock up, but how many of them I was able to get into some form of treatment, and how many of them were clean 6 months later or 12 months later. And as a county prosecutor, I never measured success by how many traffic stops our officers in Bergen County conducted, but by whether every stop was conducted safely and with respect and with dignity. And now, as the Attorney General, I continue to work hard, striving always to do the right thing for the right reasons. I'm working hard to implement implicit bias training for our cops and our prosecutors. to strengthen police-community relations, to engage with historically underserved communities. I'm working hard to recruit, to retain, and to promote talented individuals so that our law enforcement agencies across this state reflect its beautiful diversity. I've always tried, and I will continue to try, to foster unity and to bridge divides. Again, it's the very least that I can do for a country that has given me and my family and other families like ours so many opportunities. But I firmly believe that to whom much is given, much is required. And each of you, each of you as the recipients of are the recipients of a wonderful gift, a Rutgers law degree. And as recipients of that incredible gift, I urge each of you to find ways to give back and to help others. And you are uniquely situated to do so. Because today, you enter a profession that values service above all else. As lawyers, you will have a responsibility to serve your clients. It will be your responsibility to do so faithfully and zealously, with integrity and with sound judgment. You will also have a responsibility to serve the profession, to behave honorably, to speak with candor to the court, to always maintain your good character and fitness. And importantly, you will also have a responsibility to work pro bono publico, to work for the public good, to serve your community by using your talents and training to improve the lives of others and to always advance the cause of justice. Now, each of you will take your own path on this journey. Some of you will work in the private sector and others of you will work in government. Some of you will teach. Some of you may start businesses. Some of you may run for office. But there is one thing that unites all of you and unites all of us, and that is we chose to become lawyers. And it's a noble profession, as has been mentioned on the stage earlier, for sure. And that's not just because time and time again your family members will ask you to solve your cousin Ranjit's legal problems. And trust me, that'll never stop because he always gets jammed up. No, it's not because of that. It's because we are the profession. We are the profession that brought Brown versus Board of Education. We are the profession that brought equality and integration to our schools. We are the profession that fought for voting rights to guarantee everyone, man, woman, black and white, an equal vote. We are the profession that fought for LGBT rights to ensure that all people were treated with dignity and with respect, regardless of who they love and what gender they expressed. Yep. And we are the profession that flocked to airports to help travelers arriving in the face of an unconstitutional travel ban. And we are the profession that is fighting tirelessly to ensure that that promise of the American dream is available to our DACA recipients, our dreamers. No matter what the issue, no matter what the moment, we as lawyers, we stand up. We are the profession that assures that America always strives to be the best version of itself. And now more than ever, we need you. We need you to stand up. We need lawyers willing to stand up for the rule of law. We need lawyers willing to stand up and push back against this rising tide of hate and intolerance that we're seeing across the country. We need lawyers to stand up for the environment. We need lawyers to represent victims of sexual assault, to represent the indigent, to preserve the free press, to protect workers, to tackle discrimination, to uphold the Bill of Rights, we need lawyers willing to fight for justice. But here's the thing. I didn't need to tell you guys any of that. You already knew it. It's in your DNA as Rutgers law students. So now, after doing some research, as any good lawyer would do by going to Google and looking at a lot of commencement addresses before I prepared this one, I know there has to be a part in this speech where I give you some words of wisdom and where I give you some sage advice that you could use down the road. This is that part. So if you weren't listening, as I wasn't listening at my graduation, listen up now. As you enter this profession, I ask that you take nothing for granted. I commend you to treat every person you encounter, every attorney, every paralegal, every legal secretary, every court clerk, every security guard, everyone with decency and respect. The legal community is much, much smaller than you think, and your reputation in it will be cemented early on. If you are unkind or unfair, it'll catch up with you. If you are unaccommodating or unreasonable, it'll catch up with you. If you're dishonest or deceitful in any way whatsoever, it will catch up with you. And also, never ever forget the amount of power that each of you hold as a lawyer. And never let that power get a hold of you. Always do the right things for the right reasons. And importantly, when you make mistakes, and you will make plenty of mistakes, acknowledge them, apologize for them, and then fix them. And always remember how lucky you are to be here. And never forget the pride that you're feeling today, that your parents are feeling for you today, that your family members and your teachers are feeling for you today on this day, the day you receive your law degree. Always strive to do them and yourselves proud. And as you sit here today, always remember this, that every judge, every law professor, every prosecutor, every law firm partner, every general counsel, and yes, every attorney general started out as a law school graduate just like you. And just like the countless Rutgers Law School alumni who came before you, you too will become the architects of your future, of our society, of our communities, of your law firms or companies, and importantly, of our profession. Now, 19 years ago, I could never, ever have imagined that I'd be standing here on this stage in this extraordinary space with all these smart people behind me, addressing you as the state's chief law enforcement officer. I could never have imagined it. You are now about to begin your own wonderful journey. And I'm proof to each of you that anything is possible. And perhaps you will follow a path traveled by many before you, or perhaps you will blaze a new trail for others to follow. No matter what, I encourage you to keep an open mind, embrace all those new challenges ahead, and importantly, enjoy the journey. And you now begin that journey armed with the degree from Rutgers Law School, an institution steeped in a proud tradition of excellence, service, and the pursuit of justice. No doubt you are going to do exceptional things, and I can't wait to see them. I can't wait to see everything you accomplish, whether it's on the front page of a newspaper or out of the limelight. I wish you the very best of luck. I offer you my deepest congratulations, and most importantly, I'm proud to call you my fellow lawyers. Thank you.